Mr. Speaker, if he wants to know what Conservatives would do, he should resign and find out. Until then, he says no one's going to listen to us. Who's going to listen to him? The winter fuel allowance, U-turn. Waspy women, U-turn. The two-child benefit cap, U-turn. Grooming gangs inquiry, U-turn. The family farms tax, U-turn. Digital ID, U-turn. Jury trials? U-turn. We hope so. We hope so. I think that's going to be the next one, Mr. Speaker.
Rachel Reeves humiliated in chaotic U-turn over crunch meeting with UK petrol chiefs as the Chancellor finds herself accused of inciting abuse against forecourt workers while failing to provide the decisive leadership needed to navigate the explosive fuel crisis hitting British pockets. The optics of governance in 2026 are increasingly beginning to resemble a particularly poorly rehearsed pantomime, and at the centre of the stage this week is Rachel Reeves. The Chancellor, alongside Energy Secretary Ed Miliband, attempted to project an image of iron-fisted authority by summoning the nation's petrol chiefs to Downing Street for what was billed as a crunch meeting on fuel prices. Instead, the entire affair devolved into a humiliating U-turn that left the Treasury looking both amateurish and surprisingly out of touch with the very industry it is attempting to regulate. The Petrol Retailers Association, the body representing the people who actually keep the nation's vehicles moving, initially pulled out of the talks in a move that can only be described as a public slapping of the ministerial face. They didn't just walk away, they did so with a blistering critique of the government's inflammatory language. When the Chancellor of the Exchequer starts throwing around terms like rip-offs and profiteering, she isn't just playing to the gallery. She is, according to the industry, inciting actual abuse against the staff working on the forecourts. It is a staggering lapse in judgment from a woman who built her reputation on stability and mature leadership. The subsequent scramble to bring the retailers back to the table, involving desperate assurances that the media would be ushered out of the room after the initial photos, proves that this administration is currently more concerned with the performance of power than the actual exercise of it. Welcome to British Coffers, your home for the high-standard, forensic political analysis that the Westminster bubble finds deeply inconvenient. We provide a peer-to-peer perspective that cuts through the state-sanctioned spin to reveal the raw mechanics of how your money and your country are being managed, or, in this case, mismanaged. If you are watching the Chancellor trade insults with petrol station owners while your weekly commute becomes a financial nightmare, you have found your tribe. We track the character collapses and the institutional shifting of the UK's power dynamics with a refined, slightly sassy edge that treats you like an adult. Before we dissect the razor-thin margins of the fuel market and the deafening silence from number 10 on the fuel duty hike, do yourself a massive favour. Hit that subscribe button right now. Join the British Coffers community. We are building a movement for the politically astute who want the unvarnished truth about why the cost of living is being used as a political football. Subscribe now to British Coffers, and let's explore the true cost of this Downing Street chaos. The core of the dispute lies in a fundamental misunderstanding, or perhaps a willful ignorance, of how the fuel market actually operates. Gordon Balmer, the executive director of the Petrol Retailers Association, was quite clear. His members are working on razor-thin or even negative margins. They are losing money to keep you on the road. Yet, the narrative emanating from the Treasury is one of greedy corporations exploiting a Middle Eastern conflict to line their pockets. It's a convenient scapegoat for a government that is currently being squeezed between rising oil prices and its own fiscal rigidities. By writing to the Competition and Markets Authority and asking them to stay on high alert for unjustifiable price hikes, Reeves is attempting to shift the blame for the $100 a barrel reality onto the local petrol station in Devon or Derbyshire. It is a move that has backfired spectacularly, as retailers report their staff are being abused by a public that has been provoked by the Chancellor's own rhetoric. If you appreciate this level of scrutiny into the strategic dishonesty of our current cabinet, make sure you are a subscriber to British Coffers. We don't care about the party line. We care about the fact that your government is using inflammatory language to cover up for its own lack of an energy security strategy. Subscribe now and help us grow a platform that refuses to let the establishment hide behind the Competition and Markets Authority when the real issue is a lack of leadership in the Treasury. Your support allows us to keep the pressure on the policymakers who are currently watching the pumps with a mixture of dread and denial. The Chancellor's position is becoming increasingly untenable as the calls for a fuel duty freeze grow into a roar. Both the Tories and Reform UK have identified the planned 5 pence per litre hike as the ultimate test of this government's commitment to the working family. To increase taxes on fuel at the exact moment the US-Iran conflict is driving Brent crude into triple digits is seen by many as fiscal insanity. Reeves claims to be backing drivers and families, yet she is the one holding the pen on a tax increase that will exacerbate the inflationary pressure on every single household in the country. Her insistence that she will not tolerate excess profits at the consumer's expense rings hollow when the biggest beneficiary of high fuel prices is often the Treasury itself through VAT and duty. The reality of this meeting's collapse is that it exposes a government that is playing for time. The Petrol Retailers Association eventually agreed to attend, but only on the condition of privacy. They want to explain to the politicians how the market works, a conversation that, frankly, should have happened before the Chancellor started issuing threats through the national press. It is a humiliating position for a Chancellor to be in, having to be tutored by the industry she was trying to bully. It shows a lack of preparation and a reliance on sound bites over substance that is becoming the hallmark of the Starmer administration. If you want to stay ahead of the curve as the fuel duty battle reaches its tipping point and the Chancellor decides whether to double down on her tax hike or perform another trademark U-turn, ensure you are part of our subscriber base here at British Coffers. We follow the shifts in the cabinet and the emerging economic data that the government tries to manage through carefully timed leaks and staged meetings. Hit that subscribe button right now. The conversation around our national coffers is changing by the hour, and we are the only ones providing the candid, unvarnished commentary that refuses to patronize you. Subscribe now and join the community that values reality over political theater. The geopolitical backdrop only adds to the urgency. With the Middle East in a state of high-intensity conflict and the Strait of Hormuz effectively a war zone, the idea that the UK government can solve its fuel crisis by shouting at forecourt owners is laughable. We are facing a systemic energy shock, and the response from Downing Street has been a PR disaster followed by a tactical retreat. The Chancellor's desire for a media presence at the top of the meeting was purely about the photo op, the image of her looking tough on business. When the retailers called her bluff, she was forced to concede, proving once again that in the world of 2026 politics, the image is often more important to this government than the outcome. The public deserves better than a chancellor who uses inflammatory language as a substitute for policy. They deserve a government that understands the complexities of global trade and the genuine pressures on small businesses. Instead, we have a Treasury team that is being led by the nose by industry bodies and forced into embarrassing climb downs. The humiliation of Rachel Reeves this week isn't just a personal failure. It is a symptom of a wider malaise in a government that is struggling to move beyond the slogans of the campaign trail and into the harsh reality of governing a country in crisis. This has been British Coffers. We will be tracking the Chancellor's next move with the Competition and Markets Authority and the looming decision on the fuel duty hike with an extremely close eye. Make sure you are subscribed and your notifications are switched on. Our next video will examine the specific impact of these Treasury U-turns on the UK's international credit rating and the growing dissatisfaction within the Labour backbenches. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and keep coming back for the analysis that gives you the facts without the fluff.